And joining us live to discuss the college campus protests is Alex Newman, an award-winning international journalist and the president of Liberty Sentinel Media. Alex, welcome. Good to see you. Students seem to be digging their heels in on college campuses, despite some now being suspended for their actions. What do they stand to gain or lose here?
Well, one of the things that we've learned in recent days is that a lot of them stand to gain a lot of money. You find the Open Societies Foundation, this is George Soros' tax-exempt organization, funding a lot of these anti-Israel protesters, including this group, Students for Justice in Palestine. They've got organizations where they're giving thousands of dollars to these students to be so-called fellows on campus. So it actually reminds me a lot of back in the Soviet days when the Soviet Union was sending intelligence operatives into the Middle East to rile up Arabs and Muslims against their Jewish neighbors. I think something very, very sinister is going on here. Of course, in America, we all value free speech, but what's happening here is way beyond free speech. These are threats. This is violence. And I believe it's being instigated deliberately for the purpose of undermining American society and undermining American cohesion. But it is hard to take Mike Johnson seriously in his complaints about this, as he's providing billions of dollars to Joe Biden's migration efforts to import more migrants from the Middle East, while at the same time pretending to stand with Jews in America who, for good reason, I think, are concerned about their safety.
Yeah, there are so many elements at play here. In terms of potential influence, according to the Free Beacon, a group of lawmakers is asking the IRS to investigate Chinese money allegedly funding these protests through certain organizations. What do you see about that aspect of things?
Yeah, we've seen this for many, many years now, the communist Chinese dictatorship using its money to fund really anything that will divide American society. We saw this with the Black Lives Matter movement. We saw involvement from organizations that were receiving funding from the CCP. And I don't think it's necessarily that the communist Chinese care about this particular issue. I think it's more about dividing American society, fracturing American society, causing civil unrest, causing hatred in this country. And I think ultimately trying to raise those tensions to the point where it becomes dangerous. There's obviously a concerted effort to do this. We know that this is part of the Communist Chinese unrestricted warfare plan. And so I do think that's worth investigating properly. And I think really it's time for the federal government to crack down on this. We cannot have the Communist Chinese embassies and consulates with diplomatic immunity running around and trying to stir up tensions in this country. It's been happening for decades. The Cubans used to be involved with Bill Ayers and the Weather Underground, the group that bombed the Capitol, bombed the Pentagon, bombed the State Department. It's way past time for the federal government to crack down on these foreign operators on U.S. soil, doing everything they can to cause chaos.
And we have seen some lawmakers pushing back in some ways. A group of lawmakers are saying that some of the students on campus, their civil rights are being violated. Do you think the movement could potentially evolve into legal lawsuits pushing back?
There will be endless lawsuits on this, and we can be sure about that. Unfortunately, America has become a hyper-litigious society. And, to be clear, the First Amendment protects the rights of free speech for everybody, even if you want to say something really dumb. We all have guaranteed right to free speech in this country. What's happening here, though, seems to be crossing the line. I mean, clearly laws are being broken. Clearly, a lot of these protesters have no idea what they're even protesting about. They are out there because they're being paid. And we've all seen the videos. Why are you here protesting? I don't really know. We kind of like Palestine. These people have no idea what they're doing. So I think we really need to go back and dust off those statutes that criminalize the funding and the encouraging of riots. When we see these things explode into violence, when we see people being injured and attacked physically, this has crossed the line way beyond free speech. And we need to look at who is funding this. And I believe we need to have some accountability here.
And just on the other side, Alex, lastly, Columbia University has been criticized for not doing more to reinstate order on campus. They're also not jumping to meet the demands of the encampment protesters. What do you think are the factors influencing the university's response here?
Well, Columbia University, like unfortunately most of the major universities in this country, is completely dominated by leftists. And at this point, they're practically eating their own, right? It's very, very awkward to see, queers for Palestine walking around waving gay pride flags and also Arab flags. I'm not sure they realize the cognitive dissonance here. And so you go back to what Rich Higgins, the director of policy and planning, said on the National Security Council during the previous administration. You have this bizarre coalition of organizations that really don't have much in common, including Islamists, communists, socialists, globalists, the LGBT activists. And they don't necessarily share the end goal. They just share a common enemy. And he actually explained in this memo that the goal here was to destroy the United States as a nation and as an ideal. And I think we're seeing that manifested now on Columbia University. And the administrators don't know what to do. Do we support the pro-Palestine? I mean, they're just backed into a corner now. It would almost be comedic if it wasn't so tragic.
There is certainly a lot to look at here, and I hope we can get to it further in the future. Thank you so much, Alex Newman. Always great to speak with you.
Great to be here. Thank you.